Look, I get it. We all knee deep in summertime shy right now, but hey, winter is coming. I'm talking about the cold, the wind, the frost, the polar vortex. And you definitely want to make sure the windows on your crib hold up. That's where Window Nation comes in. This month, get 50% off all window styles. Window Nation offers a lifetime warranty on all their windows, so you can relax knowing your home is protected far into the future. Schedule a fast, free estimate now with Window Nation. Call 866-90-NATION or head to windownation.com. You remember that amazing little cafe you discovered last summer or that perfect hiking spot you heard about? Well, with the Overlook mobile app, you can create personal lists of places you've been, want to go, and always see everything on a map. Share your favorite hidden gems with friends and family. Or, keep your secret spots private for you. The best part, no ads cluttering your list and no one selling your interests or travel data. All you got to do is download the free app at overlookmaps.com and check out overlookmaps.com/Chicago to see some of our personal favorite CityCast lists on a map and in your pocket. Overlookmaps.com. Collect and share the places that matter to you. Today on CityCast Chicago, Illinois' longest-serving congressperson is retiring. The MLB All-Star Game is coming back to the Chi. And what do you want the future of Grant Park to look like? It's Tuesday, August 5th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. I am joined by producer extraordinaire Michelle Navarro in the building. What's up, Michelle? How you feeling? How was your weekend?
Hey, Jacoby. Good morning. It was a good weekend. Did not make it to Lala, but avoided the downtown area. And so it was a good weekend. I was very jealous, though, of all the people who saw the Marias on Sunday. Mm-hmm. That's who I really wanted to see. But next time they come, I will not miss them. How was your weekend, though?
Mine was good. Spent it in Kansas City at a family reunion. We visited the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum in Kansas City. Bob Kendrick, who is the president of the museum, he was there, and he gave like a 40-minute preamble to the museum, but it was filled with so much history, personal stories. I met Mr. Kendrick when he came to Chicago for the premiere of Tony Stone at the Goodman a couple of years ago. And he is a fantastic public speaker and orator. His love for baseball, the Negro Leagues in particular, it jumps off of him. So it was a good opportunity to meet him again. And of course, the family reunion was real cool. So I had a good weekend. I did get to avoid the Lala traffic up until Sunday. I was getting back, and the orange line from Midway to the Loop was packed with people who was definitely going to Lala. I could tell from the fits where they was headed. Hella water backpacks on. One story we didn't get to last week, but obviously caught my attention, was my congressperson announced he was retiring last week. Democratic U.S. Rep Danny Davis announced on Thursday that after almost 30 years as a congressperson, he is retiring from the 7th District after his 15th term. And unlike some of the other elder states people who have decided to retire ahead of next year's election, he immediately announced his endorsement for State Rep LaShawn Ford to succeed him. LaShawn Ford has been in the Illinois House for the last almost 20 years. Michelle, can you remind listeners a little bit of Danny Davis's time in leading the 7th District?
Yeah, like you mentioned, Danny Davis has been in the Congress business for a while. I mean, he's 83 and he's kind of hinted at retirement for a few weeks now. The last Democratic primary, people were kind of also doubting if he was even going to win, which, as to remind listeners, he definitely did. And it was a pretty easy win for a crowded race. But yeah, like you said, on Thursday morning, he announced outside of his West Side office, surrounded by a lot of his supporters. He's been serving the 7th Congressional District since 1996. It includes Chicago's West Side, and it stretches to some parts of the West Burbs into the Loop. Like you mentioned, Jacoby, he's your congressman, and it kind of goes into some parts of the South Side. Prior to running the 7th Congressional District, originally from Arkansas, Davis was a teacher in Chicago. He was elected alderperson of the 29th Ward back in 1979, where he served for 11 years. He also ran for mayor 3 times. This is actually something I didn't know. I just learned this morning that he ran for mayor more than once. He ran in 1989, in 1991, and 2011, which is when Daley retired.
At least over the last 4 years, we've talked about Davis quite a few times on the show. He's run in, like you said, some at least highly publicized elections. We have talked about Davis in the 7th District during all of our election coverage since the podcast and the newsletter came into being, because Davis, the last couple of rounds, has had to run against some stiff challenges, at least in the primary. We're in Illinois, Democratic stronghold. Most of the races are really won in the primary, especially a lot of the ones that we've covered. But Davis has fought off activist Keena Collins the last few runs, Melissa Conyers-Irvin, the city treasurer, and the race is already packed. Just because he gave his endorsement to LaShawn Ford, I think there are already 9 or 10 candidates looking to be Davis's successor. But like you said, he had been hinting for the last few weeks that he was going to retire. I guess with Jan Schakowsky in the 9th choosing not to run a couple of months ago, with Senator Dick Durbin choosing not to run, I'm not surprised that this was the year he chose to step down, even though just, again, 2 years ago, he was saying age had nothing
but a number,
was no
he
obstacle,
said.
nothing but a number.
Yeah, I mean, after hearing kind of that message of, don't write off the senior citizens in the last Democratic primary, I was actually quite surprised he chose to retire this year. Honestly, I would have assumed he would die in that seat, just because, Danny Davis has had such a long career. He's been in almost every pocket, from a teacher to an alderman to almost
Cook County Commissioner. For about 8 years.
Right. And so he's just so into Chicago politics. And I mean, he has loyal supporters. I mean, I still see his flyers and his posters on the west side, in the south side.
Probably the congressperson. And I just moved into this district maybe a year and a half ago, so I didn't even get to vote for him in the last election. But I can honestly say, next to maybe Preckwinkle, because I lived in her neighborhood and started walking her dog all the time at one point, Danny Davis is probably the Illinois lawmaker I have seen the most, between parades, between memorial services, between neighborhood rallies, between development launches. Yeah, I have seen him more times than I can count, especially over the last 4 years.
So Davis says that Representative LaShawn Ford is young and ready. He announced that he was going to run back in May. And a little bit of background on Ford. I mean, he was born in Cabrini Green housing projects. He was raised on the west side. Also a former teacher like Davis. Some similar values there with Davis as well. I mean, they both prioritize criminal justice reform and healthcare access, which Ford says he wants to continue to focus on access to healthcare, and also getting people back into the workforce is something he shared.
Yeah, both Ford and Davis have proposed and saw through legislation that was really about providing more access and opportunity to people returning home from incarceration, to try to lower recidivism rates, to prevent employment and housing discrimination from people returning home as well.
I mean, you mentioned that Chicago's city clerk treasurer, Melissa Conyers-Irvin, announced she was planning to run for his seat. Like you mentioned, she challenged Davis back in 2024, but lost in the Democratic primary. Another person that's also running is Chicago businessman Jason Friedman, who also filed to run his seat. He is a 4th-generation Chicagoan. He says he has deep roots in the community. Friedman is former president of Friedman Properties, a Chicago development company.
This feels very reminiscent of the race to replace Bobby Rush in the 1st Congressional District a couple of years ago. It looks like former Cook County Commissioner Richard Boykin, former U.S. Marine John McCombs, businessman Jason Friedman, as you mentioned, Pastor Jericho Brown, Forest Park Mayor Rory Hoskins, Kamaria Kali, Danica Lee. We also talked about Melissa Conyers-Irvin, LaShawn Ford, who's got the endorsement. The Sun-Times also speculates Walter Burnett Jr., State Rep Cam Buckner, and SEIU Illinois State Council Executive Director Anthony Driver Jr. With such a crowded field, some people with name recognition in the neighborhood, some people without. I'm really interested to see how much a Danny Davis endorsement means. I imagine a lot, given, like you said, he was able to win the last few elections pretty easily, given people, kind of speculated they could be bigger challenges. I think he won with 52% of the vote in his last primary, with both Keena Collins and the city's treasurer only getting like close to 20% each. I'm really interested to see if, this is maybe an easier win for Ford, because like we've said, whoever wins that primary in March of 2026 will likely go on to be the eventual Illinois congressperson for the 7th district. And this race is on top of open races in the 9th, open races in the 2nd, because Robin Kelly is running for that Dick Durbin Senate seat. So there's going to be a lot of changeover. We're obviously going to have a ton of election coverage, but this is going to be, I think, a very big changing of the guard, potentially. Likely a lot of career politicians end up in those seats. But I do think the races will be exciting as some organizers, activists. We've already talked to, a young candidate in the 9th who's trying to kind of change the conversation in that race, in that community. So these will definitely be races to watch closely over the coming months. You're going to want to bring your tissues for this fascinating theater pick. Come From Away is at Paramount Theater in Aurora. The show is based on a true story, y'all, of a small town in Newfoundland that took in nearly, get this, 7,000 stranded passengers from over 100 countries after planes were grounded because of the 9/11 attacks. 38 of those planes, international flights, landed in Gander, the town that welcomed the world. Nominated for 7 Tony Awards, including Best Musical and Best Original Score, the Chicago area premiere offers a simple message that kindness can and should reach across all borders. Experience the small town generosity. Come From Away runs August 20th through October 12th in downtown Aurora. Don't wait. Get your tickets today at ParamountAurora.com. All right, so I want to name a couple qualities. I want you to think if they apply to you, and just maybe I might got your next career move. Ready? I bet. Do you have a passion for people? You're excited to help others, and you got great customer service skills. Do you crave flexibility, right? You want to be in charge of your own schedule and chart your own course. Do you got that hustle in you, right? Are you ready to turn that drive into something meaningful? All right, if you answer yes, then hey, real estate might be your next big move. Realtors help people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives, buying or selling a home, and no 2 days are the same. It's a chance to grow a business, make an impact, and build the lifestyle you're working towards. Visit realtorsrealestateschool.com to set up a free career consultation. Last week, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, the mayor, the governor, and leaders in the Cubs organization were all out at Wrigley to announce the not so surprise that the All-Star game is coming back to the city in 2027. This is going to be the first time it's been in Chicago since 2003 and the first time at Wrigley since 1990. Michelle, first question to you. Do you give a damn?
Great question. Yes and no. I mean, sports are fun. I like going to sporting events. Yay team, and I love anything that brings the city money. Clearly, This is something that is going to bring in visitors. It's going to bring in a lot of tourism. It's going to bring a lot of baseball fanatics. And so, sure, bring more money to the city. So that's great. Besides that, will I go? Probably not. But anything that brings money and people to my lovely city makes me happy. What about you, Jacoby? Are you looking forward to this?
I'm a little excited. I texted my brothers and Darius when it got announced, and even right before this conversation, to ask them, is this a must-do event? I remember when the NBA All-Star Game got announced back for 2020. It got announced a couple years earlier, and our first reaction was this is a must-do event. I do wonder if it'll be easier to access some of these like events at Wrigley, around Wrigley, than it was during the NBA All-Star game a couple years ago. We've obviously had the WNBA All-Star in the last couple of years. I think that was at 2022. Those last two kind of set my bar of excitement because I know it's like a week-long set of events. You also gonna have the game, the home run derby, and so part of me is excited. I, like you, don't know if I'll actually try to go to the game, try to go to the home run derby, but to your point, anything that brings a little extra money, some extra attention, I'm game for it. Do you want to guess how many times Chicago has hosted the MLB All-Star game?
Poof. I would guess, I mean, you just mentioned in your little intro that it's been in Chicago, that it's first time since 2003. And then it's the first time at Wrigley since 1990. And Wrigley's old.
Older than the actual All-Star game.
Right. So I'm like, it makes me think that it would be a spot that you would have an All-Star game more than once. I'm going to guess this is the third time.
Third time over, like for the Cubs or overall?
Third time overall.
Okay. No, it is actually, this would be the 8th time overall.
What?
And funny enough, the very first time the All-Star game was hosted was in Chicago back in 1933. The White Sox hosted the very first ever MLB All-Star game. And the Sox have hosted it 4 times in their history. And this will be the 4th time the Cubs have hosted it. They've hosted it 3 times to this point. And so another pretty cool piece of Chicago history for you.
This announcement comes weeks after city and state officials approved a $32.1 million security upgrade package for the area surrounding Wrigley Field and, which Wrigleyville, basically. A move many believed was kind of the main, I guess, the key kicker to landing the All-Star game. This plan includes widening Addison Street sidewalks by 4 feet, which I think is great because even, I don't know if you've been to a Cubs game, I haven't been to a Cubs game in a long time, but though this packed,
I was just up there and walked straight down Addison from the train, and it feels like a narrow sidewalk for approaching a stadium for sure.
Yeah, and so there's going to be a bunch of construction, I'm sure, a bunch of movement going on before the All-Star game happens. The project is being funded by a mix of private and public sources. So the state is set to contribute $12 million, the city up to $10 million, and the Cubs, of course, will cover $8 million plus any costs, over that and long-term maintenance, the Tribune reported.
That's straight out of the Trib and some of the coverage from our colleagues. I'm always, when I see this, I'm like, oh, so they do have money. They do got a couple $1 million for some things, apparently. I appreciate that. It feels like long-term, the maintenance will fall on the team. But anytime you see this public-private partnership where the state and the city got to pony up some bread at the exact time when they saying they ain't got no money.
It's so hard to hear that, honestly. In the beginning I said, like, yeah, sure, bring us more money. But of course, to make money, you got to spend money. And it's just like,
and it's similar to NASCAR. It's like the money that had to be paid for the like pre-construction around NASCAR. It's always a little bittersweet. We'll say, having just had the conversation about NASCAR leaving in the summer, I think there were some reports that it could be coming back next year, but out in Joliet again. It does. It is nice to see that even though this isn't replacing next year's race, that it's happening around the same time. I think this year's All-Star game was like July 15th or something. And so knowing that entire second week of July, 2 years from now is going to have this premiere event. It's pretty cool, right? Again, a little side eye at where y'all get this money from.
Where is this money coming from? Yeah.
Yeah. And then I also wonder still how much of the All-Star game is going to be contained. How much will it bleed into music acts? How, like what kind of events and fanfare is going to be around it? Is it just going to be, the game and some activations around Gallagher Way? Will it push out into different parts of the city? take over some activations at softball and baseball fields, work with some of the little league teams in the city. I could imagine it being largely contained to Wrigley, but of course, I think the best part of bringing anything to Chicago is seeing how well it can integrate in other parts of the neighborhood. And they got a full week to do it. And so I imagine we're going to see some broader activations beyond Wrigley and the Loop. Over the weekend, Grant Park was home to hundreds of thousands of people for Lala. We talked earlier about getting to avoid most of the traffic. But another story around Grant Park is gaining some attention. I saw some Instagram posts about it over the weekend, and that is the Chicago Park District unveiling what they are calling Chicago's Front Yard Reimagined. It's essentially a plan, some mock-ups, some wishful thinking, some hopeful prayers into the ether on the possibility of reinvigorating, transforming parts of Grant Park, making it more pedestrian friendly. Right now, if you've been to Grant Park recently, it feels very much just surrounded by car traffic between Columbus, between DuSable Lakeshore Drive. And the goal here is to connect broader parts of Grant Park to the lakefront. Michelle, this is like a huge set of plans, probably millions on millions and millions of dollars. So we're not going to get into all the logistics of how much it would cost, what the possible timeline could be. Because again, right now, this is all mock-ups, beautiful visuals,
wishful thinking.
Mm-hmm. But you know me, you know us. We like some good mock-ups.
We like some good mock-ups. We like some good renderings. And these plans look beautiful. I mean, critics are already calling it a pipe dream. So people are already kind of dismissing the idea.
Their expectations.
And of course, we just talked about it, right? Chicago is broke. We don't have that much money. Illinois is broke. So of course, apparently, right? Yeah. And so, we're always talking about where are we getting this money? But like you said, just the images aside are beautiful. I am someone that spends a lot of time at Grant Park, at Millennium Park, just because I'm so close by and I'm kind of always in the area. And they're some of my favorite places to be during the summer. Not just, for tourists, like Chicagoans, like we love this space. We love our lakefront. And so for me, the part that kind of I got the most attention was what they call the historic core. And so that is at Congress Plaza and IDB Wells Drive. They want us kind of open up and get rid of the streets. And that's that strip that if you look straight, the Buckingham Fountain is right there. Like entering through Michigan Avenue, you have to cross a number of streets to get to Buckingham Fountain, as you're walking towards the lake. And so these plans, there's two options. One of them, which I love, it kind of shows that instead of them being streets that you have to kind of cross over, it would kind of be a flex street where usually, people can walk through. It'd be safe for pedestrians to go through. And of course, if like a vehicle needs to pass by, an emergency vehicle, they probably use it that way. But it's cool to see just walkability and pedestrians be prioritized, especially in a city like Chicago, where I feel like we're constantly debating, is Chicago truly a walkable city? Could you consider a city walkable when only certain neighborhoods are and a lot of neighborhoods aren't? And so I think this conversation continues of like what can we do? What can the city implement to make this a more walkable city? And as someone, of course, I'm very biased because I don't drive and I don't even have a license. And so I'm always going to favor the plans that prioritize pedestrians. But on that note, so I mentioned the plan of Congress Plaza and IDB Wells Drive. There is another plan, which is the one that I think got the most attention in headlines. I definitely read Block Club cover this, about extending Grant Park to the lakeshore. And so instead of having Lakeshore Drive, kind of splitting Grant Park and Lakeshore Path, we would have a tunnel, or like a ramp, I should say, a ramp that goes down. It would kind of go under where Buckingham Fountain is. So it's like parallel the Buckingham Fountain and the lakeshore, and it would go underneath. And so all that space above the tunnel would just be safe, walkable space. I just mentioned before we had this conversation that the last time I was hanging out on Lakeshore Drive, me and my friends were just walking on like a weekend night, and we saw a car accident. there's so much traffic on Lakeshore Drive per usual. And there's a lot of pedestrians that use those walkways to access the lakeshore. And so the idea of having a tunnel where, cars can be underneath, people can be at the top, that makes me really excited. And it just opens up so much more space for, concession stands and maybe shops and other recreational activities, bathrooms. I think that's a really big thing that is in the plans, and where a lot of critics are kind of saying, hey, you guys have these wonderful renderings, but how about we start with the bathrooms? Which, fair, I would love to see more bathrooms at Grant Park for sure, and just across the lakeshore. And so I'm pretty optimistic. I love Buckingham Fountain, that whole area. I think it's so dreamy, and so the fact that no cars will be around me actually makes me even happier. Jacoby, what about you? What from these renderings, which ones are your favorite?
Like you, I absolutely loved the idea of a tunnel underneath Lakeshore Drive, even just for their idea of going underneath and getting a little natural light, but there being like some art down there, kind of like a little bit of a lightscape. I don't know. It's cooler than just like an overpass bridge. The idea that people can be riding bikes up there, can be relaxing up there, and Lakeshore Drive isn't really that much, isn't really that impacted. Like, it can't, hopefully can kind of keep moving smoothly. I think it's a really cool idea. I really like the People's Plaza overlook. I spent a lot of time towards South Grant Park near the Metro Museum campus stop. And so I walk past Roosevelt and Columbus a lot, either on my way to that Metro stop, on my way to Soldier Field. And that is where the former Columbus statue used to sit. And I'm gonna be real, it just looks, at least as much as I've seen over the last few years, it's gone from fenced in to like the former platform covered in plastic to graffiti and stuff. So the idea of repurposing that, making it more walker friendly, adding some more local public art there, I think that'd be a great idea. I love just the idea of adding more spaces for people to engage with the green space that is over there. So like if you are walking towards museum campus and you see you can see all of those statues of like the walking people.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. They're like bronzy.
Agora. It's like 106 headless and armless iron sculptures. So like some of the space over there, it feels like some of the green space that is available. You may like see somebody walking their dog through it, but it doesn't really feel inviting. It kind of just looks like manicured lawns. A lot of the part that runs west of Grant Park, and even parts of the Lakeshore path, like the green space, the grass on the side of the Lakeshore path, it doesn't always feel extremely inviting to go sit on it. And so the idea of creating more walking paths near museum campus, the museum metro stop, I really love that part. And then decking over the metro lines and adding more walking space up there, I think would look really cool. Anytime I'm trying to take a picture of the skyline from that bridge, I'm always trying to edit over the train lines or get the train lines out of the clip if I don't think it helps make the picture look good. So the idea of decking that over and giving a little bit more biking space, walking space, connecting from like museum campus, that DuSable Lakeshore Drive and Grant Park, I think would be really cool.
Yeah, I think, looking at all these renderings, I think the mission, it seems like, is just finding ways to making this space more inviting to people. And that makes me really excited. I mean, there's been so much in the news in the last couple months about these quote unquote teen takeovers. And I think about how making space like this more inviting will welcome more kids, more youth into this space, and how to make them feel safe. Obviously, having cars around isn't going to make a space safer. And so I think about that. And I also think about, I lived in New York for a few years. I think about how on a Saturday or Sunday, how packed Central Park would be. And I was always so amazed that we have this primary green space in the center, of our downtown area, in the center of our city. And how much I wish I saw, Grant Park and Millennium Park being as packed as like Central Park would on a regular afternoon. And a big part of that is, right, Central Park is this large piece of land where there's no cars inside. And I think that it would make a huge difference. I know a lot of drivers are probably going to be upset at the idea of like, oh, my LSD, everyone talks about the view from Lakeshore Drive and how beautiful it is. And it's like, bro, park your car and walk a little bit. You can still get the view. You shouldn't even be looking at the skyline while you're driving. And that's probably why there's so many car accidents on Lakeshore Drive to begin with. Also, I see y'all speeding on there. Like, you guys are definitely not listening to the speed limit either. And so just more reason why this makes me excited. And, we've also heard a lot recently of a lot of neighborhoods taking initiative on making certain streets car free and how that's been going. And so it is cool seeing Chicago kind of lean into walkability and try to find a way how to make our streets a little more safer and also pedestrian friendly.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Balbo, Jackson, Monroe cut down the lane, more biking lanes. I try to bike around there all the time. And I will say they aren't the busiest streets in terms of car activity. I don't think the city would lose that much in reducing some of that side street traffic between Columbus and Lakeshore Drive. And so at the end of the day, are we going to see this acted on? Probably not, and definitely not all at once. But the idea that there's a roadmap, this continuation of a plan that has been going on since 2002 gives us maybe a couple of places to start: improving concessions, adding more bathrooms, adding more public art, maybe taking the construction projects one by one, starting with maybe the road diet on some of Balbo, Monroe, Jackson before we start building a bridge or a tunnel on Lakeshore Drive. Just start eliminating some of that inner traffic in Grant Park before officially connecting Grant Park to Lakeshore Drive. But this is something that I'd really love to see the city find the political will and the money to make happen. So many of these reimagined reports and mock-ups end up sort of going the way of the public archives and to be put in some file cabinet in the Harold Washington Library. So this is one I hope isn't just like a quick moment or a viral Grant Park moment, but something that's realized in the long term. I want to give a huge thank you to our producer, Michelle Navarro.
Thank you, Jacoby.
You can find links to all of the stories we talked about in today's episode in our show notes. Before we get out of here, I want to give a huge shout out to our new neighbors, Tom V, Megan S, and Jen V. If you want to get like them and get access to ad-free listening, neighbors-only events, and emails, then go to membership.citycast.fm, and starting for just $10 a month, you can support your favorite newsletter and podcast. And hey, if you're listening and that's not us, I don't feel any kind of way about that. I will take your $10 whether we your favorite or not. In the meantime, in between time, I'm gonna leave you with some good news. The Chicago Botanic Gardens are free today and on Thursday. Speaking of going out to see the flowers, the Garfield Park Conservatory is open from Wednesday through Sunday and currently has their Artist Garden Flower Show inspired by the work of painter and muralist Alfredo Ramos Martinez. That's running all month long. Also over at the Lincoln Park Conservatory, which is open Wednesday through Sunday, they've got their Florisonic series happening in the Fern Room. I got some links for those in our show notes as well. We appreciate you for listening, reading, making time for us. We're going to be back bright and early tomorrow talking a little farm to table. We'll see you then. Peace.